Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we all are taking a journey through the history of the universe, trying to get back to our original home. We have two new guests in the room, Judah and Sean. And I've been talking to them for about a half an hour, and they are gifted with spiritual intelligence, and they're hearing very nicely, and so we welcome them with affection to our little circle. And we do this every day. You're welcome to come every day or whenever you can. Okay, before and welcome to everyone out in cyberspace. I found out that we have 1,505 followers now. 1,505 followers that are, yeah, it's nice. Okay, so we're going to read a prayer that glorifies the book we're about to read, and it is compiled by the senior disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who I told you was Krishna himself in the form of his own devotee. And he appeared 500 years ago. Krishna appeared about 5,000 years ago. So here's the prayer, one of the deepest and beautiful prayers to the Srimad-Bhagavatam that exists. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to the old worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidwan Duditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life heir of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistada Man Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin hatini chochatakara hanamuncha gadachin mam premnarit kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So, we've reached the 5th canto, 18th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and we're in the midst of a description of the cosmology of the universe according to the Vedic version. And this chapter is called Prayers Offered to the Lord by the Residents of Jambudvipa. Now this is very interesting because all through the Bhagavatam there's 18,000 verses in the Bhagavatam. And periodically there are prayers that are offered by different devotees that have different relationships with the Lord. And therefore you can learn a lot about the Lord and what spiritual relationships are and what his position are and everything by hearing these prayers. So this is a very nice chapter. This is the summary of the chapter. In this chapter, Shukadev Goswami describes the different varshas of Jambudvipa and the incarnation of the Supreme Lord worshipped in each. The predominating ruler of Bhadravarsha is Bhadravarshva. He and his many servants always worship the incarnation known as Lord Hayagriva. At the end of each kalpa, when the demon Ajnana steals the Vedic knowledge, Lord Hayagriva appears and preserves it. Then he delivers it to Lord Brahma. In the land known as Harivarsha, the exalted devotee Prahlad Maharaj worships Lord Nishingadev. The appearance of Lord Nishingadev is described in the 7th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, the inhabitants of Harivarsha always worship Lord Nishingadev to receive from him the benediction of being engaged in his loving service. In the tract of land known as Ketumala Varsha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishikesha, appears in the form of Cupid, the goddess of fortune, and the demigods living there engage in his service day and night. Manifesting himself in 16 parts, Lord Rishikesha is the source of all encouragement, strength, and influence. The conditioned living entity has the defect of being always fearful, but simply by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can rid himself of this defect of material life. Therefore the Lord alone can be addressed as Master. In the tract of land known as Ramyaka Varsha, Manu and all the inhabitants worship Mathyadev to this very day. Mathyadev, whose form is pure goodness, is the ruler and maintainer of the whole universe, and as such he is the director of all the demigods, headed by King Indra. In Hiranyamaya Varsha, Vishnu has assumed the form of a tortoise, Kurmamurti, and is worshipped there by Aryama, along with all the other residents. Similarly, in the tract of land known as Uttarakuru Varsha, Lord Sri Hari has assumed the form of a boar, and in that form he accepts service from all the inhabitants living there. All the information in this chapter can be fully realized by one who associates with devotees of the Lord. Therefore, in the Shastras, it is recommended that one associate with devotees. This is better than residing on the banks of the Ganges. In the hearts of pure devotees reside all good sentiments, as well as all the superior qualities of the demigods. In the hearts of non-devotees, however, there cannot be any good qualities, for such people are simply enchanted by the external, illusory energy of the Lord. Following in the footsteps of devotees, one should know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only worshipable deity. Everyone should accept this proposal and worship the Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedaish Chisarvar Aham Eva Vedya. The purpose of studying all the Vedic literature is to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. If after studying all the Vedic literature, one does not awaken his dormant love of the Supreme Lord, for the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that he has labored for nothing. He has simply wasted his time. Lacking attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he remains attached to family life in this material world. Thus, the lesson of this chapter is that one should get out of family life and completely take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Text 1. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Bhadrashava, the son of Dharmaraj, rules the tract of land known as Bhadrashva Varsha, just as Lord Shiva worships Sankrishana in Ilavrita Varsha. Bhadrashava, accompanied by his intimate servants and all the residents of the land, worships the plenary expansion of Vasudeva known as Hayashirsha. Lord Hayashirsha is very dear to the devotees, and he is the director of all religious principles. Fixed in the topmost trance, Bhadrashava and his associates offer their respectful obeisances to the Lord and chant the following prayers with careful pronunciation. Text 2. The ruler, Bhadrashava, and his intimate associates utter the following prayer. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all religious principles, who cleanses the heart of the conditioned soul in this material world. Again and again, we offer our respectful obeisances unto him. Purport. Foolish materialistic persons do not know how they are being controlled and punished at every step by the laws of nature. They think they are very happy in the conditioned state of material life, not knowing the purpose of repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, Lord Krishna describes such materialistic persons as mudhas, rascals. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradamaha. These mudhas do not know that if they want to purify themselves, they must worship Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, by performing penances and austerities. This purification is the aim of human life. This life is not meant for blind indulgence in sense gratification. In the human form, the living entity must engage himself in Krishna consciousness to purify his existence. Tapo divyam putrika yena satvam shuddhiyat. This is the instruction of King Rishabhadev to his sons. In the human form of life, one must undergo all kinds of austerities to purify his existence. Yasmat brahmasokyam twanantam. We are all seeking happiness, but because of our ignorance and foolishness, we cannot know what unobstructed happiness really is. Unobstructed happiness is called brahmasokya, spiritual happiness. Although we may get some so-called happiness in this material world, that happiness is temporary. The foolish materialists cannot understand this. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj points out Maya Sukhaya Baram Udvahato Vimudan. Merely for temporary materialistic happiness, these rascals are making huge arrangements, and thus they are baffled life after life. Text 3. Alas, how wonderful it is that the foolish materialist does not heed the great danger of impending death. He knows that death will surely come, yet he is nevertheless callous and neglectful. If his father dies, he wants to enjoy his father's property, and if his son dies, he wants to enjoy his son's possessions as well. In either case, he heedlessly tries to enjoy material happiness with the acquired money. Purport. Material happiness means to have good facilities for eating, sleeping, sexual intercourse, and defense. Within this world, the materialistic person lives only for these four principles of sense gratification, not caring for the impending danger of death. After his father's death, a son tries to inherit his money and use it for sense gratification. Similarly, one whose son dies tries to enjoy the possessions of his son. Sometimes the father of a dead son even enjoys his son's widow. Materialistic persons behave in this way. Thus Shukadev Goswami says, "How wonderful are these pastimes of material happiness transacted by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." In other words, materialistic persons want to commit all kinds of sinful activities, but without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one can do anything. Why does the Supreme Personality of Godhead permit sinful activities? The Supreme Lord does not want any living being to act sinfully, and He begs him, through His good conscience, to refrain from sin. But when someone insists upon acting sinfully, the Supreme Lord gives him the sanction to act at his own risk. Matak smritir jnanam apohanam cha. No one can do anything without the sanction of the Lord, but He is so kind that when the conditioned soul persists in doing something, the Lord permits the individual soul to act at his own risk. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, sons always outlive their fathers in other planetary systems and other lands in this universe, especially on Swargaloka. However, on this planet Earth, a son often dies before his father, and the materialistic father is pleased to enjoy the possessions of his son. Neither the father nor the son can see the reality that both of them are awaiting death. When death comes, however, all their plans for material enjoyment are finished. Text 4. O unborn one, learned Vedic scholars who are advanced in spiritual knowledge certainly know that this material world is perishable, as do other logicians and philosophers. In trance, they realize the factual position of this world, and they preach the truth as well. Yet even they are sometimes bewildered by your illusory energy. This is your own wonderful pastime. Therefore, I can understand that your illusory energy is very wonderful, and I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. Not only does the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead act on the conditioned soul within this material world, but sometimes it also acts on the most advanced learned scholars who factually know the constitutional position of this material world through realization. As soon as someone thinks, I am this material body, aham mameti, and everything in relationship with this material body is mine, he is an illusion, moha. This illusion caused by the material energy acts especially on the conditioned souls, but it sometimes also acts on liberated souls as well. A liberated soul is one who has sufficient knowledge of this material world and is therefore unattached to the bodily conception of life. But because of association with the modes of material nature for a very long time, even liberated souls sometimes become captivated by the illusory energy due to inattentiveness in the transcendental position. I think I'll read that again. But because of association with the modes of material nature for a very long time, even liberated souls sometimes become captivated by the illusory energy due to inattentiveness in the transcendental position. Therefore, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tadantite. Only those who surrender unto me can overcome the influence of the material energy. Therefore, no one should think of himself as a liberated person, immune to the influence of Maya. Everyone should very cautiously execute devotional service by rigidly following regulative principles. Thus he will remain fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. Otherwise, a little inattention will create havoc. We have already seen an example of this in the case of Maharaj Bharat. Maharaj Bharat was undoubtedly a great devotee, but because he turned his attention slightly toward a small deer, he had to suffer 2 more births, one as a deer and another as the Brahmana, Jad Bharat. Afterward, he was liberated and went back home, back to Godhead. The Lord is always prepared to excuse his devotees, but if a devotee takes advantage of the Lord's leniency and purposefully commits mistakes again and again, the Lord will certainly punish him by letting him fall down into the clutches of the illusory energy. In other words, theoretical knowledge acquired by studying the Vedas is insufficient to protect one from the clutches of Maya. One must strongly adhere to the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service. Then one's position is secure. Text 5. O Lord, although you are completely detached from the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this material world, and are not directly affected by these activities, they are all attributed to you. We do not wonder at this, for your inconceivable energies perfectly qualify you to be the cause of all causes. You are the active principle in everything, although you are separate from everything. Thus we realize that everything is happening because of your inconceivable energy. Text 6. At the end of the millennium, ignorance personified assumed the form of a demon, stole all the Vedas, and took them down to the planet of Rasatala. The Supreme Lord, however, in his form as Hayagriva, retrieved the Vedas and returned them to Lord Brahma when he begged for them. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, whose determination never fails. Purport. Although Vedic knowledge is imperishable, within this material world it is sometimes manifest and sometimes not. When the people of this material world become too absorbed in ignorance, the Vedic knowledge disappears. Lord Hayagriva, or Lord Matsya there, however, always protects the Vedic knowledge, and in due course of time it is again distributed through the medium of Lord Brahma. Brahma is the trustworthy representative of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, when he again asked for the treasury of Vedic knowledge, the treasure of Vedic knowledge, the Lord fulfilled his desire. Text 7. Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear Lord, Lord Nishingadev resides in the tract of land known as Harivarsha. In the 7th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, I shall describe to you how Prahlad Maharaj caused the Lord to assume the form of Nishingadev. Prahlad Maharaj, the topmost devotee of the Lord, is the reservoir of all good qualities of great personalities. His character and activities have delivered all the fallen members of his demoniac family. Lord Nishingadev is very dear to this exalted personality. Thus Prahlad Maharaj, along with his servants and all the denizens of Harivarsha, worships Lord Nishingadev by chanting the following mantra. Purport. Jayadev Goswami's 10 prayers, worshipping the incarnations of Lord Krishna, Keshava, contained his name in every stanza. For example, Keshavadrita, Narahari Rupa, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Keshavadrita, Meena Sharira, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, and Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. The word Jagadisha refers to the proprietor of all the universes. His original form is the two-handed form of Lord Krishna, standing with the flute in his hands and engaged in tending the cows. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakara Sadmashu Kalpa Briksha Lakshavriteshu Sudabir Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasrashatasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires, in abodes built with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. From this verse, we learn that Govinda, or Krishna, is the Adi Purusha, the original person. The Lord has innumerable incarnations, exactly like the innumerable waves of a flowing river. But the original form is Krishna, or Keshava. Shukadev Goswami refers to Nrsingadev because of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was put into great distress by his powerful father, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Apparently helpless before him, Prahlad Maharaj called on the Lord, who immediately assumed the gigantic form of Nrsingadev, half lion and half man, to kill the gigantic demon. Although Krishna is the original person, one without a second, he assumes different forms just to satisfy his devotees or to execute a specific purpose. Therefore, Jayadev Goswami always repeats the name of Keshava, the original personality of Godhead, in his prayers describing the Lord's different incarnations for different purposes. Text 8. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power, O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts. Kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Purport. In Srimad-Bhagavatam 4:22-39, Sanat Kumara speaks the following words to Maharaj Prithu. Yad pada pankaja pulasha vilasa bhaktya karma shayam gritatitam udgritanti yat santaha tadvan narikta mutayo yatayo pibrudha sroto ganastam adanam vajuvasudevam. Devotees always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet, of the Lord's lotus feet, can very easily become free from hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities, because this is very difficult. The non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, cannot stop the waves of sense gratification, although they try to do so. Therefore you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Every living being within this material world has a strong desire to enjoy matter to its full satisfaction. For this purpose, the conditioned soul must accept one body after another, and thus his strongly fixed fruitive desires continue. One cannot stop the repetition of birth and death without being completely desireless. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami describes purity bhakti devotional service as follows. Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anakulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. This is called pure devotional service. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, who killed Hiranyakashipu, the personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus, Hiranyakashipu was the perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, until Lord Nrsingadev killed him. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Nrsingadev, as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse. Text 9. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. I'll read that again. That's a pretty nice sentence. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of Him. This is so nice, I'm going to repeat it again. Is it okay? Do I have permission? Okay, good. Thanks. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of Him. Prabhupada ki jai. What a translation. Purport. The following verse describes a Vaishnava. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Just like a desire tree, a Vaishnava can fulfill all the desires of anyone who takes shelter of his lotus feet. Prahlad Maharaj is a typical example, a typical Vaishnava. He prays not for himself, but for all living entities, the gentle, the envious, and the mischievous. He always thought of the welfare of mischievous persons, like his father, Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad Maharaj did not ask for anything for himself. Rather, he prayed for the Lord to excuse his demoniac father. This is the attitude of a Vaishnava, who always thinks of the welfare of the entire universe. Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavat Dharma are meant for persons who are completely free of envy. Parama nirmatsaranam. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays in this verse, Kalak prasidatam. May all envious persons be pacified. The material world is full of envious persons, but if one frees himself of envy, he becomes liberal in his social dealings and can think of others' welfare. Anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness and engages himself completely in the service of the Lord cleanses his mind of all envy. Manas chabadram bhajatat adhoksaje. Therefore we should pray to Lord Nrsingadev to sit in our hearts. We should pray, Bahir Nishingo, Hridaye Nishingo. Let Lord Nrsingadev sit in the core of my heart, killing all my bad propensities. Let my mind become clean, so that I may let my mind become clean, so that I may peacefully worship the Lord and bring peace to the entire world. Hare Krishna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, has given us a very fine purport in this regard. Whenever one offers a prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one always requests some benediction from Him. Even pure, Nishkama devotees pray for some benediction, as instructed by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastaka. Ayinanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddhao kripaya tavapada pankaja stitaduli sadrisham bachintaya. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other, I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. In another prayer, Lord Chaitanya says, Mama Janmani, Janmanishware, Bhavatad Bhaktir, Ahaituki Twayi. Life after life, kindly let me have unalloyed love and devotion at your Lordship's lotus feet. When Prahlad Maharaj chants Om Namo Bhagavate Narasingaya, he prays for a benediction from the Lord. But because he is also an exalted Vaishnava, he wants nothing for his personal sense gratification. The first desire expressed in this prayer is Swastyastu Vishwasya. Let there be good fortune throughout the entire universe. Prahlad Maharaj thus requested the Lord to be merciful to everyone, including his father, a most envious person. According to Chanakya Pandit, there are two kinds of envious living entities. One is a snake, and the other is a man like Hiranyakashipu, who is by nature envious of everyone, even of his father or son. Hiranyakashipu was envious of his little son, Prahlad, but Prahlad Maharaj asked a benediction for the benefit of his father. Hiranyakashipu was very envious of devotees, but Prahlad wished that his father and other demons, like him, would give up their envious nature by the grace of the Lord and stop harassing the devotees. Kala prasidatam. The difficulty is that the kala, envious living entity, is rarely pacified. One kind of kala, the snake, can be pacified simply by mantras or by the action of a particular herb. Mantrao shadi vashasharpa kalakina nirvaryate. An envious person, however, cannot be pacified by any means. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that all envious persons may undergo a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. If the Krishna consciousness movement spreads all over the world, and if by the grace of Krishna everyone accepts it, the thinking of envious people will change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays, Shiva Mito Diya. In material activities, everyone is envious of others, but in Krishna consciousness, no one is envious of anyone else. Everyone thinks of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that everyone's mind may become gentle by being fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. Bhajatad adhoksaje. As indicated herewith, in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Sabai Manat Krishna Padada Vindayo, and as advised by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakta, one should constantly think of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one's mind will certainly be cleansed. Cheto Darpanamarjanam. Materialists always think of sense gratification. But Prahlad Maharaj prays that the Lord's mercy will change their minds and they will stop thinking of sense gratification. If they think of Krishna always, everything will be all right. Some people argue that if everyone thought of Krishna in that way, then the whole universe would be vacated because everyone would go back home, back to Godhead. However, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is impossible because the living entities are innumerable. If one set of living entities is actually delivered by the Krishna consciousness movement, another set will fill the entire universe. Text 10. My dear Lord, we pray that we may never feel attraction for the prison of family life consisting of home, wife, children, friends, bank balance, relatives, and so on. If we do have some attachment, let it be for devotees, whose only dear friend is Krishna. A person who has actually self-realized and who has controlled his mind is perfectly satisfied with the bare necessities of life. He does not try to gratify his senses. Such a person quickly advances in Krishna consciousness, whereas others who are too attached to material things find advancement very difficult. Purport. When Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was requested to explain the duty of a Vaishnava, a Krishna conscious person, he immediately said, Asat Sangatyag a Vaishnava Achar. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the association of persons who are not devotees of Krishna and who are too attached to material things, wife, children, bank balance, and so on. Prahlad Maharaj also prays to the personality of Godhead that he may avoid the association of non-devotees attached to the materialistic way of life. If he must be attached to someone, he prays to be attached only to a devotee. A devotee is not interested in unnecessarily increasing the demands of the senses for gratification. Of course, as long as one is in this material world, one must have a material body, and it must be maintained for executing devotional service. The body can be maintained very easily by eating Krishna prasad. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachchati tadaham bhaktuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Why should the menu be unnecessarily increased for the satisfaction of the tongue? Devotees should eat as simply as possible, otherwise attachment for material things will gradually increase, and the senses, being very strong, will soon require more and more material enjoyment. Then the real business of life, to advance in Krishna consciousness, will stop. Text 11. By associating with persons for whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda is the all in all, one can hear of his powerful activities and soon come to understand them. The activities of Mukunda are so potent that simply by hearing of them, one immediately associates with the Lord. For a person who constantly and very eagerly hears narrations of the Lord's powerful activities, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, in the form of sound vibrations, enters within his heart and cleanses it of all contamination. On the other hand, although bathing in the Ganges diminishes bodily contaminations and infections, this process and the process of visiting holy places can cleanse the heart only after a long time. Therefore, who is the sane man who will not associate with devotees to quickly perfect his life. Purport. Bathing in the Ganges can certainly cure one of many infectious diseases, but it cannot cleanse one's materially attached mind, which creates all kinds of contaminations in material existence. However, one who directly associates with the Supreme Lord by hearing of his activities cleanses the dirt from his mind and very soon comes to Krishna consciousness. Sutta Goswami confirms Sutta Goswami confirms this in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.2.17. Shinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha ridyantaksto yabadrani vidunoti suritsatam. The Supreme Lord within everyone's heart becomes very pleased when a person hears narrations of his activities, and he personally cleanses the dirt from the mind of the listener. Ridyantaksto yabadrani vidunoti. He washes all the dirt from the mind. He washes off all dirt from the mind. Material existence is caused by dirty things within the mind. If one can cleanse his mind, he immediately comes to his original position of Krishna consciousness. And thus his life becomes successful. Therefore, all the great saints in the devotional line very strongly recommend the process of hearing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra to give everyone a chance to hear Lord Krishna's holy name. For simply by hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one becomes purified. Chetudarpanamarjanam. Therefore, our Krishna consciousness movement is chiefly engaged in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra all over the world. After one's mind becomes cleansed by chanting Hare Krishna, one gradually comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness and then reads books. Like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the Nectar of Devotion, the very 4 books that we talked about. That's right. In this way, one becomes more and more purified of material contamination. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1-18, Nasta praye shabadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatuttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed, and loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. In this way, simply by hearing of the powerful activities of the Lord, the devotee's heart becomes almost completely cleansed of material contamination, and thus his original position as an eternal servant who is part and parcel of the Lord becomes manifest. While the devotee engages in devotional service, the passionate and ignorant modes of material nature are gradually vanquished, and then he acts only in the mode of goodness. At that time, he becomes happy and gradually advances in Krishna consciousness. All the great acharyas strongly recommend that people be given a chance to hear about the Supreme Lord. Then success is guaranteed. Then success is assured. Same word. The more we cleanse the dirt of material attachment from our hearts, the more we will be attracted by Krishna's name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and activities. This is the sum and substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. Hare Krishna. We'll stop there. We had some pretty nice purports. you guys came in just at the right time to hear those purports. They were very nice. Nice prayers, nice thoughts, what the goal of life is, how to purify our hearts from all the things that have been accumulated there for so many births of doing nonsense. Okay. Just to warn you, I have to go, at 7:50. I can't, 5:50. I can't stay past that. So now we have our magical open mic session. There's a mic right here. And we'll pass the mic around. And anybody, anything that's stuck in your minds from that reading that you want to discuss further or, reflect on or ask a question about, be my guest. Hare Krishna. Don't tell me you have the first one. She's always got her hand up first, So give anybody a chance. Go ahead. You got to be quicker, see? Be quicker, otherwise she's going to hog the show.
Yesterday we read that. I think we didn't read it, but you mentioned that just by reading the Vedas you cannot achieve prema, that Krishna has to select you. And today we read that a person who constantly and very eagerly hears narrations of the Lord's powerful activities, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, in the form of sound vibrations, enters within his heart and cleanses it of all contamination. So this is just kind of like a reflection or like expanding on the point that you mentioned. Just because you read doesn't mean that you'll...
There's a difference between hearing the Vedas and hearing the pastimes of the Lord. This is the reason why the Srimad-Bhagavatam is called the Nigamakalpa Tador Galitam Palam. Palam means fruit. Nigama means Veda, or Shruti. Nigamakalpa Tador Galitam Palam. The Bhagavatam is the desire tree of the ripened fruit of the Vedas. So by reading the Vedas over and over again, you can't get love of God. But by reading the Bhagavatam again and again, you get love of God. So those verses that talk about you can't get love of God by repeatedly hearing the Vedas, it's talking about it in a broader sense. But you can get love of God simply by hearing the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's okay, you can read them again and again. Don't use that as an excuse not to read them again and again. That's why Prabhupada was so expert, If you tried to read all the Vedas and study them yourself on your own and come to this conclusion, it would be absolutely impossible. There's millions of verses. And we don't have the capacity even to understand them, what to speak of research and come to this conclusion ourselves. It's like Lord Chaitanya came and just kind of gave it to us on a silver platter. Here it is. Never mind who you are. Just hear about me, Just chant my name, hear about me, and take Krishna Prasadam. That's it. It's your thing. So all those other things, that big list about studying the Vedas and doing austerities and performing sacrifices and, going through the Varnashram perfectly, and all those taking sannyas, which is a real facility for spiritual advancement. None of that can get Krishna prema. None of that can actually satisfy Krishna completely. And that's the only way you can get Krishna prema, by satisfying Krishna completely. And what satisfies him completely is if you get really attached to hearing about him and eventually fall in love with him. It's kind of like everyone else, except he just happens to be the Supreme Lord. So if you do that with him, then you get everything. Whereas you do that with another person, you may get something for some time, but then you get heartache and this and that and the other thing. Good question, thanks. Question from cyberspace?
Yes.
Okay.
From Vrindavaneshwari Devidasi.
Vrindavaneshwari, Hare Krishna. She's, by the way, now out in San Francisco, not Bay Area, and in Silicon Valley, associating with Vaisheshika Prabhu and Nirakula and all the ISV Wallas.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol, Vrindavaneshwari Devidasi.
We read, the first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the association of persons who are not devotees of Krishna and are too attached to material things, wife, children, bank balance, and so on. I once heard a devotee state that he wished he would have kept some relationship with some friends and family at some point in their lives. They suffered badly and felt it would have been good to... They suffered badly and he felt it would have been good to share Krishna consciousness with them in those low points of their lives. I took that and kept some relationships with friends, and sure enough, I was able to share Krishna consciousness with a friend at a difficult time. Is maintaining some relationships okay to portray at least a good example of a devotee?
What it means by maintaining relationship with those things, family, this, is not devotees, first of all. If your family members are devotees, then it's quite all right. And at the same time, if you go to a friend, an old friend, or even a family member, to give them Krishna consciousness, that's not going to associate with them. You're giving them your association. You're giving them Krishna's association. And that's not the same thing. Of course, we always have to be conscious of the fact that the material energy is very strong, and unless we have proper guidance, and unless we're strong ourselves, if we go and associate with just anyone, without that purpose of being Krishna conscious and sharing Krishna conscious and being Krishna conscious together, then there's the possibility that the material energy will affect us and bring us down. So therefore, a devotee is recommended not to associate intimately with gross materialists. But devotees are not gross materialists, even if they're in the Grihastha ashram, even if they have. Look at Sundar Gopal and his kids. I mean, you can associate with them all day, believe me, and all you'll become is Krishna conscious. You see, so it's not, It is talking about materialistic persons, and it talks about not being strong enough so that when you are in such association, you will be infected by the material energy again. We have the example that was given in one purport. We've heard just recently Bharat Maharaj, who was actually a liberated soul. He was having symptoms of bhava, which is just the stage before full love of God. Tears was his eyes, and he was feeling so many wonderful spiritual emotions. And he was living in the forest by himself, preparing to go home, to leave his body and go back home, back to Godhead. But because he's compassionate, devotees are always compassionate, he happened to get, attached to a little deer. You know the story. You don't know the story. It was a deer, a pregnant deer, became frightened by the roar of a lion, and she jumped and gave birth as she jumped, and the little deer calf, fell into the water and was being swept away. And naturally, his compassion, he picked up the deer and protected it and got very attached to it. He got too attached to it. It's not that we don't feel compassion for others and do things good for others, but we don't get too attached to the point where we forget our spiritual practices. So it's a question of realization, it's a question of degree, it's a question of association. He didn't have his spiritual master was not there, and he didn't consult And, he was out there in the woods by himself, and didn't have someone to kind of. That's why we have a society. We have the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So the social pressure of living together, and all of us trying to get there together, and then when we see somebody that's just, I don't know, maybe like, hey, you okay? And in that way, the social pressure keeps us going in the right track. So attachment to family and society and children and friends and home and bank balance and all those things and social life, if they're dovetailed in Krishna consciousness, and if all those personalities surrounding you are Krishna conscious, it's just fine. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had 10 kids, and he was like called the 7th Goswami. He was one of the great liberated persons that revitalized the Krishna consciousness movement on this planet when it had become forgotten over time, because time causes everyone to forget. Even the holiest of places in India, from time to time, they get forgotten. And then Krishna comes again and or a saintly person comes and revitalizes it and brings it back to proper situation. So hey, if you go and make your friend a devotee, why not? You'll go back to Godhead if you do that. If you make one devotee in your life, one pure devotee in your life, you go back to Godhead. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I will give up all the marble, all the mats and temples, that I set up, if I could just make one pure devotee. Of course, he made more than one. But he especially made Prabhupada. And here we are. As a result, without Prabhupada, we wouldn't be here. Knowing about all these things. What else? Who else? Is that okay, Vrindavaneshwari?
She put a heart.
Heart. Okay, must be okay. Pretty sweet. Eh? Pretty sweet reading. That was a nice reading. Okay, Honest John's going to give us some stuff here.
This is just some. It's kind of like the end of the verse. It says, "Therefore, who's the sane man who will not associate with devotees to quickly perfect his life?" That's it.
Well done. We don't call you Honest John for nothing.
It's right here.
I know. Yeah. So we should all be very careful. Lord Chaitanya, I may have said this recently, I've said it a couple of times, but anyway, I'll say it again. Repetition of a good thing is good. When Lord Chaitanya was leaving, when the devotees who came to visit Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri were leaving to go back to Bengal, one group of them, especially from Kaliyagram, they asked him this question, what should we do now? And Lord Chaitanya said, serve the Vaishnavas. And then the first question was, what is a Vaishnava? And Lord Chaitanya said, anyone who has chanted Hare Krishna once is a Vaishnava. So what to speak of all of us who are living and chanting regularly and trying to be devotees? We should be very careful in our attitudes towards one another. Very careful. And we heard about it also in a couple of the purports really deeply about what that means, how careful we have to become. Then, the next year, when they left, they asked him the same question. what is a Vaishnava? And then Lord Chaitanya said, anybody who is initiated and strictly following and trying to be and chanting Hare Krishna regularly, he's a Vaishnava. And you should serve him. And then the next year did the same thing, and he said, what is a Vaishnava? Who is a Vaishnava? And he said, anyone upon whom seeing him you feel like being Krishna conscious, or you feel like chanting Hare Krishna, you should give your life to that person. So this was his way of defining the different levels of devotees. But in each case, he emphasized that we have to give respect to the Vaishnavas, whatever station we are in, whatever level of advancement we've achieved. Madbhakta Pujadika. Madbhakta Pujadika. Lord Krishna said, I am more pleased when you worship my devotee than when you worship me. Yes.
It's from Vilas Manjari Dasi.
Jai Vilas Manjari, Hare Krishna. Vilas Manjari, we should all give her mercy. She got in an automobile accident. And she's kind of like recovering. She's a teacher. And she's recovering. So please recover quickly, completely. And then she said in letter, she wrote me a letter, and she said, actually it was a blessing in disguise because now I can stay home and hear these books. That's a Vaishnava. Things like that.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Regarding Nishkarma, devotees don't pray for themselves, just to purify themselves and others. Should we follow this example, or can we pray for the Lord to help us with our own problems?
We should pray to the Lord to become the best devotee in the whole universe. Maharaj Yudhishthira prayed to the Lord before he asked him if it would be okay, well, after he asked him if it would be okay for him to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. Rajasuya sacrifice is a huge religious, ritualistic sacrifice that a person must do if he wants to be the ruler of the earth, the emperor, the Samaraj. And so Krishna asked him, well, why do you want to do that? He said, I want to become the best, I want to be regarded as the best person in the whole universe. And Krishna said, my devotees don't think like that. What are you talking about? He said, yes, because when they ask me, how do you do that? I'll just look at you and I'll point to you and I'll say, I did it by his mercy, so you should go to him and get his mercy. And that way, I'll be able to turn everyone in the universe's hearts to you. And then Lord Chaitanya, and then Krishna said, oh, all right, if you insist, go ahead. So yes, if we do want to advance in devotional service, not for ourselves, but for the benefit of others, so that we can become potent, that we can help others. There is a stage of advancement or a mood of devotees who are interested in their own personal relationship with Krishna and awakening it. They're called bhajananandis. They're interested in their own bhajan. But the Goshtinandis, they're interested in giving Krishna consciousness to others. And of the two, Krishna is more pleased with the second than the first. Although the first is not condemned, because some people have that mood and that, or they want to do that. But if you really want to become pleasing to Krishna, then you just do like this. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me. And I declare that there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Hey, Hare Krishna, Dr. Junkie, Dr. Janki, Hare Krishna. Nice to see you.
Same here.
Hey, Nitya, you really struck gold with these two.
Well, he wants to come, so it's him.
Anyway, we know who you are, Nitya. You can't hide from us. Okay, that's it, kids. I have to go because I have some appointment, and then I have to finish my rounds because I had a lot of things I did today. And yeah, and then I have to get up tomorrow, 2:30, and read more Chaitanya Charitamrita for the audiobooks. And then we'll be here back again tomorrow at 6:30. I forgot to mention that. Oh, we're still on? Oh, sorry. I almost forgot that I wasn't on. So, we'll see you everyone out there in cyberspace. Thanks very much for coming, and don't forget to share, because I'm learning by hearing from others that when you share, then the number of persons who can get this nectar of the Bhagavatam increases. And for those of you who weren't in the room when I announced it, we're now up to 1,505. That means this last month we went up 100. So thanks to all of you, and thanks to Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit who made possible this wonderful Bhagavatam that we're reading every day. Thanks to all the personalities in the room. Thanks to everyone out there in cyberspace. All glories to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. See you tomorrow night, 6:30 Central Time, same place, same station. Hare Krishna.